And then, by the way, we're also dealing with the Chinese Communist Party in Qatar, who's expanding. Let's say they got 5 billion bot accounts, not 1 billion bot accounts. What sort of world are we in 5 years? Our runway is getting smaller and smaller and smaller.
Want to welcome you guys to a very special episode where we'll be taking a real deep dive with a new friend of mine, Nima, a man who was introduced to me by another friend. And when he mentioned the name, I looked him up, and it turns out that I had been seeing his face literally the day before. And so, I felt that this was God being obvious in who I'm supposed to be speaking to at this very moment in time. So, Nima, I appreciate you for making this time for us.
Thank you, man. Thank you so much for
Absolutely.
having me, brother. And genuinely, man, I sincerely like how you've been going hard on a cuckoo Candace. Yeah.
Well, people
She's
gonna like that
avoiding
one
you,
for
man.
sure. I know. I know. I trust me. When the time comes, it will come. You can't run away from truth, not for long.
Yeah,
So,
man.
but so
Yeah.
the first place I want to start, and this just again the question that's been looming in my mind because I know that you are both of Iranian as well as Jewish descent, right?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
So pops is Iranian, mother's Jewish.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh
man.
huh.
My father, he was not a religious man.
Hmm.
And he was from Iran, and the Iranian government, stole a tremendous amount of money from our family. They had to flee Iran, and then my other grandfather married a Jewish woman, my grandmother,
Mm,
and then my grandmother had my mother, and then my mother had me.
wow.
That's how I was, that's my Jewish ancestry
Hmm.
lineage. But yeah, man, they shot my grandfather about 5, 6 shots, close range. My grandfather was pro-West. He had a Jewish wife.
Wow.
And he was actually a Muslim. His middle name was Muhammad. And, but he was not an extremist. He was
Hmm.
not a terrorist
Yeah.
like you know, and, and he fled Iran. And that country basically destroyed my grandfather's life. He saw his friends get murdered. He came to Atlanta, Georgia, and Atlanta, Georgia worked as a post office, uh, guy. But he
Hmm.
was heartbroken. I mean, he was a military general. He was a military leader working with the Shah in Iran. He lost all his prestige. He lost everything to go to a foreign country, at the age of like 55 to start all over to get called probably, towel head, sand nigger,
Yeah.
all the, because he's a dark skinned guy too,
Mm,
and to deal with that. And this during the Iranian hostage situation. Um, but Americans saved my grandfather's life from
wow.
Iranians who wanted to murder. Imagine that. So I got a deep sense of loyalty towards America, man, because
Mm,
saved my grandfather's life. And
yeah.
most Iranians, and one last thing, most Iranians in Iran that are Muslim, some are Muslim, most of them are Muslim, they don't approve of that government,
Mm,
the Iranian regime. You have countries like United Arab Emirates, you have, they don't also like it.
yeah.
There are a lot of countries that don't like the Iranian regime,
Hmm.
including Muslims. We can't, I feel like if we try to alienate all Muslims, we're gonna it's very hard. There's a billion of them,
Yeah.
right? It's the extremist ones that come to Europe. They come here to Europe. They rape their women and they hate their culture
Yeah.
and they give all migrants a bad name.
So, there's going to be 1,000 questions in just this one right here. But just to give you a little, I guess, context on my side, and my folks out there might not even know this, but I have a great affinity with the Iranian people or the Persian people, right?
Oh, yeah.
If you want to get back to the roots. So, my first, I guess, delving into the world of business, etc., came through an Iranian family who had hired me at a kebab spot. They were basically looking to build out a meal prep part of the business, pops behind the kitchen 17 hours out of a day, and then the other, extra hours he's running about to make sure the business is working. But his son actually, he took me in, and the whole family took me in. I ended up working there and basically learned marketing and things of that nature while being
Nice.
in, yeah, in the confines. So I've always had, khosh amadid. Like I've always had yeah. I've always had that as a part of my, personal history. So, again, my affinity is deep, and I understand that, Iran is such a there's such a deep misconception in the West about basically everything outside of what's going on in that country, especially in the United States,
Yeah.
right? There's a deep, deep ignorance, and I feel like a lot of that is intentional, how we're presented information, etc. But it's incredible because there's such a distinction between the Iranian people and the Ayatollah regime, right?
Yeah.
And so I guess my first question around that, because you said, most of these folks, like, they don't like the um the subjugation that they're under. They're not fans of this. It's not like they're
Wow.
all choosing. They're actually oppressed peoples in a
Yeah.
truest sense, right? They love to call the Palestinian, quote unquote, Palestinian people oppressed, but it's like next door, you Westerners are holding up the Ayatollah's poster, and it's like
Yeah.
this is the face of actual oppression. So I guess where I want to start on this one is, and this is a little bit of a delineation for where I want to go eventually, but what do you think it is that drives so many Westerners to side with the wrong side?
First I want to say, man, before we get into this, you said
Mm,
something that got me, man. I grew up with Hispanic people and
mm,
African American people,
mhm.
and some of my best friends are Hispanic or African American, and
Yeah.
and and I could imagine that some of them. You remind me of one of my very good friends. His name's Yusef,
uh
and I could imagine when he meets Iranian people,
Yeah.
he talks the way you talk to them. Because he also knows some Farsi. He can
Right.
go to, he'll go to this Iranian restaurant and he'll order and he'll speak Farsi and he blows them away.
Eh,
And,
let me get the juge. Let me get the juge. Let me get the
yeah, man. Yeah, man. It's funny because the way you say it, and I can imagine that's how he talks to people when he meets an
Right.
Iranian. And I'm gonna send him this. I want to send him
Oh,
this.
yeah,
So
no, 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 this is
yeah,
gonna be the
and
one
I
for
got
him
a
then.
friend of mine who's Nigerian. He'll get a kick out of it too.
Ah,
Yeah, he'll get a kick out of it because they know a lot about it too. Through me.
mm, yeah,
To answer your question, bro, I guess
mm,
in here in Europe,
yeah,
I'm in Germany, you're in Belgium, we're
mhm,
Americans. You know, not all migrants are the same issue for Europe. And I'll give you an
yeah,
example. I'll give you an example. When you have the migrants that come from Syria, right?
mhm,
Just in the past week alone, there was a Syrian migrant who came here who, I guess, a 14-year-old girl, he tried to rape a German girl. She was 14, maybe. So you have the migrants that come from like Syria, maybe
yeah,
Afghanistan, uh, Tunisia, you know, Palestine. In fact, I think it was actually a Palestinian, not a Syrian. I'm sorry.
mm,
They come and they cause a disproportionate amount of problems.
facts.
Whereas the migrants that come from Iran, they come to Germany, they're largely
Mm,
successful. And not all of them, but overall, you have a higher they assimilate, they
mhm,
adjust. They aren't they've already fled Iran. They're
mm,
not actually trying to go back. And they're appreciative they're here. Whereas in some countries, you have a major issue. When you look at the sheer volume of gang and
yeah,
rapes in England from Pakistan, I
yeah,
think you can say that's an issue, right? Like
absolutely,
you don't need
without
to
a
say,
shadow of a doubt.
but yeah, you're not hearing about Nigerian Muslims, British girls like you are hearing about Pakistanis, right? So
Mm,
there's
yeah,
some countries, and what I find, speaking of real quick, like to talk about the Nigerians, I would love to hear at the United Nations someone talk about the Nigerian Muslims that keep getting murdered. And I have an affinity for the Nigerian because one of my best friends, I'm 45. When I was
mm,
13, I met a Nigerian kid in my middle school.
mm,
I've known him at this point 32 years. So, and I know how to make Nigerian food.
yeah,
And, you know,
jollof, hey.
yeah, believe it or not, I know how to make Nigerian food.
Wow, Pepe,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, and I find it very insulting that
Mm,
the Nigerian Christians, it's almost like these Nigerian Christians
yeah,
and we're just not
and
talking
nobody
about it.
says anything on scale. We're
And
talking
then
about
and
every single day it's happening, and yet there's absolute silence.
and then they have the nerve to tell you and me that we're racist maybe, and that we're not valuing the Palestinians' life. They have the audacity to virtue signal
Yeah.
to us as they're ignoring an actual atrocity of seeing Christians in Nigeria get
Yeah. Yeah.
over and over.
Yeah.
And I can't, we're not even talking about the 1 million Muslims in China
Yeah.
with the Chinese government's stance that Islam is basically a mental illness. Open. Chinese will openly basically talk about Islam as a mental illness, literally. And there's no, all good. They go to the United Nations, they say it's good for us to have it in our in our countries,
Yeah.
but they don't want it in their country, just like they don't want TikTok in their countries. They're playing us, bro. China's
Mm.
playing us,
Of
and
course.
they're winning.
Of
That's
course.
the crazy thing is that they're actually winning, and you and I are looking at them win,
Yeah.
and it's almost like it's almost like a horror movie you and I are in, bro. You know what I mean?
Mm. So you come from, the financial sector. I did a little bit of my homework, right?
Yeah, that's true.
You come from the financial sector and you've had business success and things of that nature. What what broke the camel's back for you? Like what did it? What was the moment where you were like enough is enough? I have to speak even if this means that it blows up everything I got going on over here. Cuz that's a real, it's a real consequence of what we do here is that you have half the world who could easily hate you and try to sabotage you for exactly what you say. So what was that for you? I'm just personally curious on your own personal story.
Ma- Maybe about 3 years back when I
Okay.
saw that Nick Fuentes
Hmm.
and Kanye talking about Jews, it bo-
Hmm.
it bothered me a lot because in my generation, I'm 45.
Hmm.
In my generation, I came up looking at Martin Luther King
Yeah.
Jr. as like a hero as an American. And what America was supposed to be like, like America, everyone's equal.
Yeah.
And then I also thought that the Jewish people and the black people had some solidarity all the way back to some of the earliest organizations to give civil rights to African Americans. I think that the Jewish people sacrificed quite a bit. I didn't do it, so I don't want to take credit for what they
Yeah.
did.
I mean,
But I
they
do
funded
think,
the NAACP. I mean, they they
yeah, bro,
built
and
institutions.
even Bernie Sanders, I'm not a Bernie Sanders supporter. However, do I respect the fact that he was arrested next to that African American girl for her civil rights? Yeah, I will say I respect that. Even if he's not popular now, even if I don't agree with a lot of what he does,
You
I
are.
do respect that he was ready to go. He was about it. He was
Yeah.
ready to go to jail. He got arrested basically next to her, and and I felt a little bit of betrayal, honestly, man. I felt like because I've met Kanye before, I mean, I've been at the party with him
Mm.
before, and we have a good mutual friend, and I just felt like, man, why are you joining these Nazis, bro? Like these Nazis hate you. I'm in Germany right
Yeah.
now. Like it's like these guys are just hard racist, man. Like
Yeah.
this is not like in no way would Kanye be able to walk around some parts of here, this country, Germany, and
Mm.
not have an issue. And
Wow.
it's just a fact, bro. I'm not
Yeah.
talking about like I'm just, they hated people that were not just Jewish, but they looked down on African Americans,
Of
Africans. So
course.
so the fact of the matter is that when he did that, I felt like a sense of betrayal, man. And I started
Mm.
speaking up about it. And I think that's when I thought, okay, I think now when we fast forward 3 years later, and I'm thinking about where did we get to, we got to a point, unfortunately, where I think there's more bot accounts. I think there's and maybe I'm exaggerating, I don't know, but maybe there's 400, 500 million more bot accounts that are going to go into YouTube comment section, Instagram comment section. They're going to go in your Twitter replies
Yeah.
and they're going to pump us with information warfare. And they know that there's very little pushback. They know that there's very little enforcement.
Yeah.
And they know that it's a fantastic ROI. If they can't beat Israel with military might in the battlefield,
Mhm.
they can beat us with psychological warfare. And that's what
Mm.
they're doing. They're doing information warfare at mass scale like we've never seen. And they're using social media as a weapon. They're
Mm.
exploiting our free speech environment, point blank.
Yeah.
Um, and they're flooding this narrative to delegitimize democracies, and they're at the same point glorifying their own terrorist, communist uh, movement that they whitewash and put in as resistance.
Hmm. Hmm. So
What do you think?
now I'm gonna ask you,
Okay, yeah,
who do you think is doing it? Number one,
yeah.
and what is their end game? And again, Nima, you're the type of guy. This is why I knew this had to happen because you're a straight shooter. There's no mincing it about. There's no whatever it is. Like you're straight to it. So I know you're just gonna say it. Who's doing it and why? And then also, I'm gonna add this part. Who do you think is actively being funded, actively being pushed on our side of the algorithm? Because you mentioned, El Cuckoo Candace as one of the first individuals, and what do you think the incentives are for some of these people? I'm not, because it's easy to say everybody's a grifter, everybody's paid. I believe there's nuance, right? Some people do it as a power dynamic. Some people are, sort of usurping different audiences, things of that nature. But there are people that are being paid. There's somebody who's paying somewhere, and so go ahead on that one.
I mean, as an American, I would say you definitely have countries like Russia and Iran.
Mm-hmm.
However, I like to focus more on the Chinese Communist Party because,
Mm.
first of all, I've been to China more than once,
Yeah,
and I do business with the Chinese in the financial markets. But I'm not for the Chinese Communist Party,
yeah,
and I'm very much against it. And I see what they're doing at mass scale. They have the biggest budget. You talk about a country that has a massive budget to commit to information warfare,
yeah.
do disinformation campaigns. If in 2025 we have 1 billion bot accounts invading the West, is it possible to say that next year there's 2 billion accounts? Is
Easy.
it possible? Is it possible in 5 years, in 2030, we are in a environment where we have 5 billion, billion bot accounts run with AI on any issue in America that does not help the Chinese Communist Party? We're going to get blasted with why we're wrong, why
Mm.
America's awful, why Israel's awful, why
Yeah,
Taiwan is awful,
yeah,
why Ukraine is awful,
yeah,
while every country that is our ally in a sensitive location to the Chinese Communist Party's foreign policy, they are all, none of our allies are our friends. They're
yeah,
all our enemies, and all our media, all our politicians are all bad, and they're going to divide us in a million ways, in a trillion ways, in billions of ways. And we have 5 billion bot accounts in 2030. 5 billion. I'm not saying million, billion that have invaded. Our comment sections on Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter and TikTok have it's just complete Chinese
yeah,
Communist Party propaganda, or it's Al Jazeera. By the way,
yeah.
Al Jazeera is banned in Arab countries because it's so nasty. It's so nasty.
Wow.
But here's my question I would ask anyone in the audience or anyone who sees this video is, if we do not stop that
Mm,
from doing this sort of psychological warfare on our social media apps as Americans, can we blame them to say they shouldn't invest 100, 200, 300 million a year, 1 billion a year, when they can have us so divided over the next 5 years? Xi
yeah,
Jinping doesn't need to play the election game. He can
no,
stay as leader for the next 10 years. If
absolutely.
and I say one more thing, if every year, incrementally, he can divide our country, if every year he can divide us from our allies, like Taiwan,
Yeah,
like India, like
mm,
Israel, in
yeah,
sensitive locations, if every year they can incrementally do that, who's to say in 2030, we're not only dealing with 5 billion bot accounts pumping us with disinformation, dividing us from our allies, they're also insulting us every year more and more incrementally at the United Nations. The
yeah,
way they give disrespect to some of us, I don't know why we fund that, Ted. At this point, it's a communist convention, bro.
absolutely. Absolutely. So I want to speak to that a little bit because you've already covered the disrespect that took place at the UN this last week. And the first thing that came to my mind was coward. That was the first word.
Yes.
I said, because here's the thing that I've come to realize. And when you're young, you have this perception of leaders, right? Grand leaders, these men who know so much more than we do, and whatever. It's like the adults around you as a kid. You think they're all smart. You grow up to realize that most people are idiots, actually, including ourselves in many cases. And then hopefully we will do what is necessary to educate ourselves, what is necessary to understand, as opposed to, being so prideful and thinking we know every damn thing. So I've come to realize that when I'm looking at the Starmers of the world, when I'm looking at the Macrons or whoever it is, I'm looking at weakness. But you made a video about Starmer that shifted my perception on that, because weakness doesn't always show up as docile or whatever it is necessarily. It just is cowardice because you're willing to side with evil. But you did a deep dive on Starmer specifically, and how essentially he has had this sort of connection to the Communist Party for a relatively long amount of time. And so it's not just these leaders are cowardice as far as, they're feeble when it comes to the things that matter. It's the fact that they are actively siding with evil. Intentional. You know what I mean? And it's
Yeah.
easy to just say, again, everybody's a puppet or whatever it is. And it's like, no, there's more nuance than that. But the end goal is still the same. And so, you speak of China because they have the largest vested interest, and you bring up another great point coming from the world of finance, understanding that they have the wallet, like they have the purse to do what is necessary, right?
Yes.
And so anybody who wants to partner would just go directly through them. Why not? We have the same interest. Your enemy is my enemy, type of thing.
Yeah.
It-
You
When
get
you
it.
when it's the Starmers of the world and these sort of guys who are supposed to be the leaders of our greatest allies, what is going on there?
Yeah. The thing is, it's when they've managed to divide people. So so when they're capable of, let's
Mm,
just say, in 2030,
mhm.
okay? Yeah, my daughter's 3, so I've
Oh,
already lived a good life, man.
yeah.
You know, I I genuinely have an interest in what my daughter's life is gonna be like, you know?
Absolutely.
You know? What your daughter's life is gonna
Yeah.
be, your children's lives are gonna be like. So let's just say we're fast forward, we're in 2030. In
Mhm.
2030, let's say there's 5 billion bot accounts,
Yeah.
and they're invading us, and they're telling us that Taiwan is our enemy, they're telling us that Israel is our enemy, no matter what they do, all the
Yeah.
intelligence they provide, uh uh, weaponry they provide,
Yeah.
chips they provide. It's insignificant of what they actually do. What's only significant is that we're going to get 5 billion bot accounts on a daily basis, every hour, attacking about why we should not trust our allies, and they're dividing us.
Yeah.
Is it feasible? Is it is it feasible to say, out of 100 Americans, at least 5 of them will eventually just say, you know what? I'm getting fed this stuff every day for the last 5 years. I believe it.
Yeah. Without a shadow of a doubt.
And,
And Imma
and
go
now,
act on it.
exactly. And I'll act on it. I'll make a YouTube channel. I'll make a TikTok account. I'll make an Instagram account, an X account, and I'm going to speak up against our enemies, Taiwan and Israel. I'm going to speak up against uh, anyone that does not promote the Chinese Communist Party agenda and goals for the
Mm.
2030s. So then, guess what happens? Then China can do even more propaganda and more bot accounts, and they can hide within the Americans that are also doing it. So we're going to get to a tipping point. I give you my fucking word, bro. We're going to
Yeah.
get to a tipping point. Maybe we've already gotten there. Maybe we're already past it, where enough Americans will believe it and will do it,
Yeah.
that it's at that point out of our control. Or they've got us. Like when you see so many people in Hollywood
Yeah.
take the side of these terrorists and these communists. We've truly gone, bro. We've truly gone so far off the reservation at this point, and every year it's going to get worse because there's very little enforcement.
Yeah.
We're letting China and Qatar, we're letting Al Jazeera. which is literally banned in Arab countries, literally banned. It's such nasty propaganda, bro. And we're letting them in our country because, oh, it's free speech. It's free speech. And I get free speech for Americans.
Yeah.
But do we have to let their communist or their terrorist garbage filth in our country? Yeah,
That
I don't
right
know.
there, I've never actually heard anybody ever articulate that point, which is it's our free speech. But there's this aspect of the jihadist of the world who look to manipulate and use our laws against us, right? Use free speech, and now we're Islamophobes when we're speaking up about, any sort of violence, whatever it may look like, coming from these Islamists, right? Coming from genuine jihadists. So that same sort of thing, like you're saying, at a scale level, global, all vested interests. It's the Marxist of the world or the communist ideologues. I believe it's just leftism. We can call it that. It's this leftist ideology, which is usurping power through manipulation of the people. And it's so interesting. The other night, I'm watching an episode of some series. What's it called? It's like how to create, there's like how to create a cult leader, how to create a dictator was one I came across. And I watched the episode on creating truth and how that's one of the most foundational aspects of creating a dictatorship. You must not only control the information, but you must create a truth, whatever it may so be. So they speak of Stalin and how, as Lenin is sort of dying off and he started having deep distrust for even Stalin, started realizing sort of who Stalin was. Not saying Lenin was a good guy, but Stalin was masterful at creating a narrative. And so at first he was seen as this sort of meek, humble guy who's just coming in there, right? Tolerant, accepting for the people. You know what I mean? Like, we're going to do this for the worker. We're here for you. Nobody's paying attention to you. This is Marxism. And as Lenin is dying off and then dies, he starts creating this narrative how him and Lenin were so close, narrative. So the people gravitate to him. And then he takes Marxism and Leninism really as his own ideologies. But he says, these two are my foundational ideologies, and this is what runs. And long story short, the man kills millions of people, of his own people, starvation at scale, massacres, butchering, imprisonment, gulags, you name it. Right. And it's like that seems to be the trend of the end goal of this communist leftist ideology. And what blew my mind from the beginning when I was ignorant, had no idea what was happening. I just thought, these people are kind of insane. And then I come out of what I call the conservative closet, and then I feel the backlash. And I'm like, man, these people are unhinged. They're wishing me to die because I believe something different. And now I'm at a place where I'm like, no, there's no mincing words. This is a movement based on violence. Like, this isn't a mistake. This is the end goal. It is to eradicate anybody who does not believe like them. Period. Right? And so you're speaking of this concerted effort through obviously controlling information, creating narratives, creating what truth is. People are then motivated and inspired. And I mean, we saw the most tragic version of that with Charlie being assassinated,
Yeah.
right? When you have, somebody who's given over to leftist propaganda. And even in that, there's propaganda because it's, well, no, it was the Jews. Well, actually, no. Even that usurping of the actual threat is just as dangerous as anything else. And so I guess I want to kind of come back to a question that I had, which is, do you believe that there are also specific individuals who are influential? Because for some reason, as humans, we're built in a way where there will always be leaders in the midst, right? There will always be a hierarchical, it's a godly structure. It's just oftentimes manipulated. You always have those who are leaders. You have, the Catarlsons, I like to call them, the cuckoo Candace or conspiracy Candaces of the world. These, the Mexican white supremacist Fuenteses of the world, right? These guys, do you believe that they are simply byproducts or products of the propaganda, or are they a part of it actively and willingly?
Yeah, it's interesting. We were talking. I think we were talking about Starmer, right?
Yeah.
You talking? Yeah. So, like, when you look at Starmer as a leader,
Mhm.
who definitely does he have communist ties?
Mhm.
For example, so in the 1980s, a lot of people don't know this, but Starmer was writing for a Marxist magazine, a literal Marxist magazine, and anyone can fact check me. It was called Socialist Alternatives. Okay, so to understand this, he joined the Hadaldine Society of Socialist Lawyers, which is like in bed with the deep socialists of that were in England, right?
Yeah.
So people are saying, oh, Starmer is this British guy. He has these extremist leanings. He's built a network of hard leftists in the Labour Party, and he's shaping the British Western world view by taking this doctrine and doing it. And you want to know something?
Yeah.
They're not wrong.
Hmm.
They're actually not wrong to point it out. And if anyone, and I would encourage anyone to fact check me and look this up, the Communist Party of Britain actually hates Starmer. They call him basically a government anti-worker. They call him warmongering and sold out. In England, you just had protests after he recognized Palestine that was not enough for these migrant freak Palestinian pigs that do these march. No, because they want to
Wow.
say that Israel should not even exist. It was not even enough for them.
Okay.
Now,
Wow.
now, now, let's talk
So
about the
he's a
Chinese.
sellout in comparison to what they actually are. He's the sellout.
Yeah,
He's
and
not
and
doing enough.
he's not doing enough. And Starmer, a lot of people don't know
That's
this,
insane.
actually met Xi Jinping at the G20, and he publicly said that they have a strong, durable, respectful UK Chinese Communist Party relationship. He's Starmer's trying to revive what's called the golden era with Beijing, the century of China, in
Hmm.
trade, in tech, climate. Um, and what he's doing is he's opening the doors to the Chinese Communist Party, man, to invade and use the middle of London as a military headquarters where they have CCP agents literally going in. And that land is very important because it's over the fiber optic cables. So when you're talking about them not giving full disclosure to what they're looking to build,
Hmm.
and they're arrogantly walking all over England like it's a British colony that is now owned by the Chinese Communist Party. It's looking more and more like England, the UK, is literally within 10 years a Chinese Communist Party colony. They will colonialize the colonializers of the past. That's how powerful they are. They're not scared of us, and they're invading us openly and arrogantly.
It's interesting because some folks will listen to this and say, "Ah, but I mean, that sounds quite drastic. It sounds a bit much." And I'll say this, as somebody who was born in Zimbabwe and has been to a few African countries, some of these cities have turned into little China, not Chinatown. I'm talking about little China. I'm saying in the middle of remote African places, you're seeing a multitude of Chinese people. And it's not just immigration for the sake of immigration. These aren't the Christian evangelists Chinese who are coming down there to spread the gospel. No, no, no. They have signs, they're building buildings, and one of their main strategies is like 100-year plan, right? While we're thinking in today, they got the 100 years. So, you become indebted to us, we'll give you the money you need for infrastructure,
Yes,
and then we
yes,
own you.
yes. You get
So
it.
just to verify that aspect that's a very real thing. And so,
Bravo.
ah, so do
Bravo,
you
bro.
I
It's a relief
appreciate
to
you, man.
hear
Come
you,
on, man.
bro. It's a relief. It's a relief that we're Americans are waking up. It's a
Yeah,
fucking relief, bro. Thank you
yeah,
for saying
yeah.
that. Thank you, bro. You
Absolutely.
completely get it, bro.
Wow. So
Completely.
in that, I then say because and I have because of my own faith and there are things spoken of in prophecy and you look to revelations and it even speaks of the great dragon and things of that nature and you wonder to yourself, interesting, the great dragon, right? Who essentially looks to conquer the world and uses its force and its power and its might, but it's economic as opposed to warfare in the same way that we've been used to. right? And so again, I can't help but think to myself that we have been keeping our eyes on damn near anybody but who it actually is. You look at your favorite sports team, your LeBron James or whatever, they've been bought by China. You look to your favorite entertainers, etc., whatever it is, right? You could go to Hollywood and the Chinese influence is felt. Apple bows the knee and had a difficult time pulling themselves from that relationship. And, you look at half of your manufactured goods, if not more so, it has China. And we think to ourselves, this is just normal. How is it? No, it's never been normal in our history to be partnered with the communist. That's not normal. That's like imagine Reagan, right? Like waking up today and he's what the hell did we just do all of this for? We had a cold war, a hot war. We will not negotiate with terrorists. He wasn't speaking directly to, Islamic force. He was speaking to overall. He understood the threat of communism and this leftism. And now here we are in relationship in a bed. And yet again, it's crazy because you more than most people are focusing where the focus needs to be.
Thanks, bro.
Right? Because of course, because it's easy to focus on brush fires as opposed to the causation of the fire, right? The guy pouring the fuel, and he's oh look, 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 look. It's like, dude, there's fuel all over the ground. Who's pouring the fuel? And who owns the matches? And so I guess, you speak of Stammer, et cetera. These guys are sort of bowing the knee. Is it because they want to be allegiance with the most quote unquote powerful player on the chessboard? Or is it because they're just so given over to that sense of evil? What's that about in your perspective?
First, you said that, you just said what the Chinese are doing in Africa, and you're from
Yeah.
Africa. So I want
Yes.
everyone to know he's not exaggerating what he just said.
Yeah.
I've been to Africa myself.
Mm.
And the thought that the Chinese Communist Party is literally building Africa, and it's not even actually Africans building it, is an idea that it's actually getting colonialized by
Yeah.
Beijing, brick by brick, port by port. So I want to emphasize, he's not. When you hear an African like my friend here say that the Chinese are in Africa,
Yeah.
he's not exaggerating. And when you've got Chinese signs literally in the middle of a remote African city, when you have an entire Chinese construction crew that speaks Mandarin Chinese getting
Yeah.
flown from Beijing with the Chinese Communist Party approval, they're not there to spread communism. They're there to start a small shop. They're
Mm.
literally there to colonialize, full stop. And they have something that I would encourage everyone to look up. It's called the Belt Road Initiative. It's
Mm.
blanket Chinese communist propaganda. It is what he just said. Tanisha just said a 100-year plan. He just completely gave everyone here a value bomb. It is a 100-year plan. They don't think in election cycles at
No.
all.
No.
They're thinking in regards to decades and centuries, a
Yeah.
century of China. I didn't come up with that slogan, century of China, by the way. That's a communist slogan from Beijing.
Mm.
So they'll say, we'll give you the loans. They say we're going to give you roads, ports, and railways. And then you African people will take our Chinese communist money. You get your shiny new airport that you can put on Instagram about how
Yeah.
you're a rising African nation. But then when you
Akon gets
can't,
$6 billion to build Akon City.
yeah, and then when you can't pay it,
Yeah.
when you can't pay it, guess what? The Chinese Communist Party own you in Africa. And it's not just debt, it's leverage, bro. It's leverage. You need votes. Then guess what happens? You need votes at the UN. Did you notice how many African countries walked out on Benjamin Netanyahu and they pandered to Netanyahu? Suddenly, 20 African countries basically all lined up behind Beijing. You want to block Taiwan? You want to protect Huawei? Control rare earth minerals? Beijing's already got it.
Brother, you just broke my brain right now because
You
no,
broke my
seriously.
brain, bro. Like, it's just like you said it, you nailed
I'm
it with the 100
I'm
year thing,
like,
bro.
I saw the list this morning and I that's why I hopped on my phone because I said, wait a minute. this brother right here, because some I think again, it's in our minds, we want it to be other than what it is. And I think it's a protective measure in the brains that's built in where it's like it's not as bad or whatever it is. I saw a list. I'll see if I come across it again. The list of the nations that walked out. And I noticed that there were many Islamic nations, right? Heavily Islamic nations. And that was one common thread. But then I did see every other African nation, and that did not make sense to me. Like outside of the ones that are Islamic ruled, and you hear of these mass slaughters of Christians and things of that nature currently taking place. I'm like, make this one make sense for me. What you know? And as you're saying this, I'm thinking to myself again, and it's shifting my own perception, which is, I've done relative amount of maybe not even deep dives, I can say. I've coupled China with Russia, coupled China with, Qatar and things of that nature. But that's almost, again, it's a delineation away from who is the number one vested interest. And again, ideology wise, it has not changed. What has changed is who is essentially the arbiter who delivers this mechanism. Before it was the USSR, it was, what is now known as Russia, and they still want to see us destroyed. They still have a deep interest in that, and they're actively doing so. But again, you couple the financial aspect with the ideological, and I think that was the part I was missing out on because people hear Chinese bots and it's almost become just almost like a talking point, right? Oh, Chinese bot. Like, do you understand how serious that is? You are fighting right now in your comment section with a non-existent entity, exhausting yourself as, you know what I mean? And then you're almost gaslighting yourself like, man, am I crazy? The next post that comes out, well, who took Charlie's life? We went from radical leftism, which we have been seeing here, taking the lives of many in different ways, just took the lives of those kids in a church in Minneapolis. And now all of a sudden it's no, wait, actually, it's probably Bibi Netanyahu personally. 150 billion. And so now you have these different vehicles. And I've come back to this question a few times, but do you believe that, well, actually, I guess I have to reformulate it. When it comes to Qatar, when it comes to Russia, etc., do you believe that they are all together in this? Or do you believe that they just so happen to be playing the same game at the same time, which is the destruction of Western civilization and America being the sort of golden child of Western civilization?
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. We're under an invasion of the
Mm,
Chinese Communist Party and this Al Jazeera propaganda. Is it one giant conspiracy that Qatar, Russia, Iran, China are all sitting at some table plotting against us? No, it's
mm.
not a James Bond like villain movie we're
I'm
in.
so
No,
glad you said that.
yeah,
Mm,
no, no. But is it something smarter, nastier, and harder for us to fight? Definitely. We should not
hmm.
we should not underestimate how this is actually what's going on and how it's working. They're not officially maybe allied. They're
Yeah,
aligned though.
yeah.
Even if they're not officially
Ooh,
allied, they are aligned.
that's a
Understand?
bar. Yep.
Yeah, thank you, bro. I love hip
Yeah.
hop. But
That's a bar.
Russia wants to distract the West so it could do what? Buy out, own, colonialize Ukraine. Iran wants
Mm,
to export its revolution and destroy Israel. Qatar
mm,
basically wants to buy its own influence and buy its protection. Right? They have American military bases that's their shield, and then they're spending all this money with Al Jazeera and into our universities. China
mhm,
is looking to switch the global order that within 2 decades they are the number one uncontested global superpower, and they have destroyed and fractured the West and our democracies completely into oblivion. And when you look at what Beijing is doing with their massive governance budget,
mm,
they can bring in money, they can
mhm,
bring in AI and tech, which a lot of it
mhm.
they steal from us in America.
Of course.
And then Moscow, their puppet, can conduct and orchestrate these disinformation campaigns. And then Iranians and Qataris just bring this terrorist ideology and foot soldiers. to just pump more disinformation and to confuse and divide us. And then you got 1 billion, maybe 5 billion, 20, 30 billion. Why not at this point? Why not? Why don't we make 1 trillion bot accounts? I mean, we're
Exactly.
not going to enforce it.
Yeah.
It's our free speech and it doesn't
Yeah.
cost them much money. And with AI, you're going to be able to automate and lower the cost of that.
Yeah.
Right. And you tie all that into it together. So they don't even need to sign a treaty. They don't. They just push in the same direction and they look at us tear ourselves apart in the West. So we have to stop imagining that um, a NATO for dictators. Okay, this
Mm.
is like that's not what they got. They got a swarm, like a swarm of bees, a loose converging network of regimes and proxies who are all benefiting when we are divided and
Yes.
distracted, not only
Yeah.
domestically, but internationally from our allies like Taiwan,
Yeah.
India, Israel.
So do you
And
believe that that's the concerted effort to have Americans have this perception of Israel? It's simply to keep us disconnected from your actual friends.
yeah, there's just no doubt about it. It's a very hard sell to convince me that Israel with 9 million people or Taiwan with its tiny population that's giving us such these two countries give us so much technology and
Yeah.
intelligence and the locations to counter a Chinese Communist Party
Mm.
with the largest navy in the world. They're openly hostile. They're openly talking about taking over Taiwan very soon. Russia's definitely helping them.
Yeah.
I mean, Israel's not threatening to take over, Italy,
Yeah.
but China's openly talking about taking over Taiwan. So
Yeah.
Americans have this perception of Israel that's completely upside down, and I can't blame them when you have 1 billion bot accounts in 2025
Mhm.
telling you the opposite. They
Yeah.
think Israel is some endless war machine that's draining US money, even though it's like 99.8% of our money doesn't even go to Israel, but let's just blame them disproportionately
Of
for all
course.
our problems in the United States.
Yeah.
Um, but the notion that Israel is on the front line, an outpost of Western civilization in the Middle East, to break that notion in our minds, to gaslight us to not believe that is a big mistake, man. And that could
Hmm.
cause it is a big mistake. And they're winning when they can divide our country and divide Europe to make us believe otherwise. That's one of I think their big thing convince us that Israel is not on the front line of an outpost of Western civilization in the Middle East.
Fighting your war for you.
Yes. Convince us that our allies are our enemies, like Taiwan, like, you know, Israel, that these are actually our enemies. And they're going to do it, man. They're going to keep doing it and they're not going to stop. And we have to speak up. People like you have to speak up. People that are not just Jewish, people that are not just liberal, people that are not just conservative, people that are not just Muslim, people that are not just Christian, just people that not just Chinese Americans. We need more people speaking up, man. This cannot be something that just a group of Jews and evangelical Christians
Yeah.
do. No, we need or Hindus. Right, like it's cool. Yeah, yeah. We have some people. Yeah, we have billions on our side. I think, but we need more because they're attacking us inside of our countries, bro. They're
Yeah.
attacking us in India. They're attacking us in Israel. We got unhinged leftists trying to put Benjamin Netanyahu locked up. It's we got Starmer trying to do digital IDs.
Yeah.
Very close to us, bro. 1 hour from us on an island called the UK. The UK islands, bro. England. We're not far from it, bro. You and me are like 1 hour away by plane.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
So
America's yeah.
so I believe obviously, well, it's not just a belief, there's receipts for this, that this obviously didn't start yesterday, right? The sort of conditioning within I think it's really been mostly with the kids. That's who it's directed to because that's where it's most efficient, right? Give me the child until they're 7 and I'll give you, the person. I'll give you the adult. I'll give you the little foot soldier in essence. So there has been this focus on our university campuses to essentially switch, I guess, switch the lights off and switch something else on in these kids, having them becoming the very foot soldiers of this establishment and of this movement. And maybe this is a little more personal, just what your perspective on this would be. What is a solution? And I'm not saying it's the solution, but what is a solution? Is it that we defund these universities? Do we eradicate? Like, what do we do about that issue? Because we know they're pumping them out at mass, and we want to, talk about this aspect of division in our country. And it's like where most of them being created outside of just social media, it's on those campuses where it's being reinforced and, doubled down on with these so-called authorities. So if you were, I guess, commissioned as the ruler of these United States, what would you be doing as an effort towards that?
Number one, let's stop pretending that our universities like Harvard and Columbia aren't at the very bare minimum communist training camps. I think it's
Hmm.
important to define what those are at this point, that
That's
they're
good.
communist training camps. They are where they are a factory for foot soldiers for the Chinese Communist Party or their or their ally or their
Yeah.
friend, the Qataris.
Yeah.
So you give me a child, you said, I give me a child until he is 7, and I'll give you an adult or,
Yeah.
something like that. That's the model. So yeah, they're focused on your kids. And the bottom line is that when the CCP and Qatar can pump money into programs, billions, and they have professors that are pushing that communist and that terrorist ideology, what's the result after 1 or 2 decades? They have built a pipeline of young activists
Hmm.
who hate the West, they hate America, they hate Israel, and they carry water for the CCP and the Qataris that would crush them and them in a heartbeat. And
Hmm.
and so what's the solution? What's the solution? It's not just defund them. I want to add to that because I liked your solution of that we or your suggestion perhaps that we could defund them. No, no, I say it's not just enough that we defund and we walk away. It's
Yeah.
we expose it like you're doing, the foreign
Hmm.
money. We strip their subsidies from these
Hmm.
propaganda mills and we build actual alternatives. Think trade schools,
Yeah.
think online programs,
Yeah.
apprenticeships,
Hmm.
platforms that actually teach critical thinking instead of Chinese communist propaganda or how
Hmm.
to be a jihadist in 3 steps. So if you want to win this fight, if you actually want to win this fight, more people like us, you take the information you're learning from us having this stream, and you don't just complain about their foot soldiers, uh, but you speak up
Yeah.
about cutting off their funding, about building better institutions and giving kids a choice. That's how we shut down this factory. It's not enough for people to just like and comment and share the videos and the content we do. Support other creators that are also talking
Yeah.
about it.
Absolutely.
And if you're a shy person and you don't want to do it, support, engage, volunteer in programs that where we're speaking up against you know, this communist propaganda and this terrorism. You don't need to live in a country where migrant from Afghanistan will come and rape your daughter. I
Yeah.
don't want the world that I leave my daughter to get raped by a gang of Pakistanis. And I don't want that sort of world for your daughter. And I think if we don't speak up, what are we leaving for our children?
Yeah.
I think about that a lot. I'm a father. I,
Hmm.
I definitely think about now the fear of when I die, or am I leaving this world in a way where there's digital IDs, there's Chinese communist rule, or there's a group of Pakistanis that will rape my wife, my daughter, and rape my granddaughter, and I'm dead and I can't help them. And all my friends and best friends, their daughters are getting and controlled by these savage pig beasts. No, I cannot just do nothing.
Yeah. Wow.
Cannot, bro. I cannot. Doesn't matter how successful, good my situation is now. What am I leaving? And the thought of that is horrifying to me, bro.
It's so
We have
wild
to do something.
because nah, bruh, it's so wild because like the last message that is always left on my heart every single time is like we have to speak up. And I forget which ah, Russian or I guess Soviet philosopher who, was in the gulags, etc., never thought he would come out. And when he did, he was rescued by America. Funny enough, that parallel. And he wrote a book which was essentially about how it's like the truth, or at least the courage to speak the truth, is the ultimate solution. And it's like, it seems like it's nothing, but if you look at how we got here, it's based off information, right? So what happened? We were quiet when they said, you know what? A boy is a girl's a boy. Instead of saying, no, that's wrong. No, that's a delusion. Over and over again, we said, okay, we want to be tolerant, freedom of speech, whatever it is, right? As opposed to asserting ourselves, because these ideologies assert themselves. They don't ask for permission. They say, no, this is what it is, and this is what we're pumping out. And so, they speak of the silent majority, right? We just, okay, well, I mean, it's not that bad. They're just doing their thing over there. Not understanding that everything happens in stages or in phases. It's always rolled out in that way until now you're accepting, hey, we're going to take your kid from you. We're going to generally mutilate them, right? We're going to castrate them. We're going to pump them up full of hormones, and we're going to make them lifelong patients of ours. And you can't do anything about it. You thought they were just starting at, we're just doing our own thing, whatever it is, whatever mechanism. They might use their little tolerance as they had before, which they can't hide, obviously, their true sentiments now. But before they came in saying, no, it's about tolerance, it's about acceptance, it's about, coming together as all peoples and whatever you are. And we, as sane, rational minded people, said, okay, as long as you're just doing it over there, just don't bring it to us. And it's like, no, 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 no. We can't let any of it slide. It's like, okay, if you want to do it for you in your house, but we're not instituting it. We're not making it law. We're keeping it in the DSM exactly where it is. Right? This is how information starts to become, and again, the normalization process that happens. And then all of a sudden, you now have a society that's the sane-minded people are gaslit and are even questioning themselves on something that's, straightforward. And those who are clinically insane, likely under-medicated people, out of their mind, demonically possessed, they are now the actual mainstream narrative. That is insane. We can't let ourselves continue to be gaslit. So as you say this, like, it hit different for me, especially being in this space, because it's like, look, we've been afforded the opportunity to have a platform and to speak out in this way, and, to have a certain skill set or gifting to speak in this way. But what about when you're at the teacher conference as a parent, right? What about when you're at city hall or something's going on in your little town? What about when you're in a conversation with your family and you have that opportunity? Somebody goes, there's a genocide happening in Gaza. You sit back and you know good and damn well that's a lie. Instead of saying, no, that is incorrect. That is a lie. Now, there might be 10 people at the table. Maybe 3 of them are so deeply propagandized, forget about them. But the others might be somewhere in the middle. They really don't know. And so you have the opportunity. You can't be shy in representing the truth. That's been my biggest thing. And it comes from a personal story, I'll be honest. And I never have referred to actually in any other video of who it was I was in conversation with. But let's just say the closest a person could be to you family wise. And, our relationship has since severed because of who I voted for. Go figure, right? He's very much in the leftist, in the alphabet community, LGBT. That's his world and his space. But I remember a day when he brought up this idea of quote unquote trans kids. And I wasn't as bold, nowhere near as bold as brave. And it was actually a part of my own sort of arc to getting to this place. But I remember him going on, and because he's older and because I respect him and whatever it is, I just let him talk. And I let him say something that is not just wrong, but is dangerous. To say these kids know what gender they are, blase, blase, blah, right? And how he was even, telling another one of our family members, like correcting them in that. and she wasn't having it, and he's trying to use all these other sort of bullying tactics and manipulation, whatever. And I just, as the little brother, I just sat there and I took it. And I regretted that day. Nima, every day since, I regretted that day. And I was like, bruh, like, you knew in that moment that was dangerous. If you heard somebody going, hey, it's okay to diddle kids, right? If you heard somebody say that and you remain quiet, now you're complicit.
Yeah, man. I feel like that whole the trend thing is, I think there's a lot of homosexuals that are also very furious with the trans situation, bro. Like the trans
Yes.
situation is very, very disgusting. I mean, that is, it's one thing. There's gay people that are like, hey, we don't want to have anything to do with the tranny stuff in the schools. I don't call too many things evil.
Yeah.
I think Hamas is evil.
Yeah.
I think that tranny stuff is equally evil. I think that if I never, to your point about how if you don't speak up, you're sort of complicit. It took me till my mid 40s to get
Mm,
to a point where I felt where I broke, I unlearned, or I got out of my comfort zone to say, no,
yeah.
this is actually evil. Like, yo, this is actually evil.
Yeah.
And I need to say, I want to say that this is evil.
Yeah.
This is evil. Hamas to
Yeah.
me is evil.
Evil. There's no
It's evil.
it's not a conversation to be had.
No.
Because so and but the reason why you get, a bunch of these, I mean, real smooth brain kids on college campuses saying they're a resistance movement, and you have, Qatari sitting up there, maybe they're just a political fraction, is because not enough of us are going, no, they're evil, end of conversation, and standing on that. You know what I mean? Like, most people are so silent, and that's where it happens. You get a Hitler when a majority of the people don't say a damn thing when they know something's off. I don't stand for that, but I don't want to be trampled in the midst of this. And so that quiet minority is loud and they're coercive and they bully and they'll get you fired from your job. They'll get your business closed down. They'll do this, they'll do that. They'll get your kids pulled away from you, whatever it is. But it has always taken throughout history a few brave men or women to be like, you know what? I don't care. I'll lose my life for this. Every time it's taken that. Whether it was America's inception, a few men who said, you know what? If we die, we die. And as a result of that faith, we got to where we are now. With God at the foundation, and they said, so be it. But we can't be slaves anymore. We can't be subject anymore. Enough is enough. And so, as much as when I see what's playing out, it's like you want this, like you said, it's hit this critical mass, but it's like it just takes a few of views of I saw you sitting with Tommy Robinson, right? One man who has been dragged at every single which way, and now all of a sudden you have him at the head of 3 million people in the streets. Like, enough is enough. We want our country back. And so as we sort of wrap up, I wanted to I guess I wanted to get what your overall sentiment is. Are you somebody who is hopeful about the situation? And then of course I want to, make sure people can get to you and they know where to find you and things of that nature. But where is your heart in all this in the midst of this war?
Well, you just mentioned Tommy Robinson. So,
Mm,
so in the UK alone, okay, referrals to have kids to go to gender identity clinics literally jumped about 77% in 1 year. It was like just 2009, okay, to over 5,000 in 2022. So you're looking at about a 6,000% increase in barely a decade. Okay. Did our biology get disrupted overnight? No. It's social engineering.
yeah,
Plus, we have profit incentives. We have
yeah,
clinics. We have pharma. We have activists. And they're building an industry, like a cottage interest industry, around pushing these medical interventions on kids faster and earlier in their lives. So
Hmm.
another thing is that in 2024, the UK, they went and they shut down its biggest gender identity clinic because there was an
That's right.
independent review of it. And it said that they were rushing children in the UK into treatments without enough evidence. Okay. Now, you could say, was that the clinics giving compassion, or will you say that's malpractice? As a parent, I say that's
Yeah.
malpractice. And
Absolutely.
and the biggest danger, also one another big danger, is that we're normalizing this evil trans ideology first, science second, and the
Mm.
kids are just an experiment at this point.
Exactly. Yeah.
And who pays the price? A whole generation of kids will pay the price because the bottom line is a 6,000% spike in nature isn't natural.
Yeah.
It's a indoctrination system that's manufacturing patience.
Yeah.
So yes, it is evil. It is
Yeah.
evil to have a tranny teacher with your children in elementary school. It is
Yeah.
evil.
Yep.
It is evil. Just say it
Yep.
out loud, bro. Just say
Yeah.
the elephant in the room. This is evil.
Yeah.
And no gaslighting, no Starmer the communist is going to fucking convince me or anyone out there that this is anything but evil.
Hmm.
So thank you, man. I like when I
Yeah.
hear your story, when I hear you talk about, something like this, I'm just there thinking like, no, I got to speak up about this,
Yeah.
especially with the young G's, with the young guys, man. Like,
Yeah.
no, it's important you speak up because you got younger guys that are looking at your content, bro.
Yeah. That's
Like,
facts.
no, what are you gonna do? Stay quiet? Then you stay quiet. Then they take it.
Exactly. Yep. It's you might as well roll over and take it. That's what quiet is. That's what silence is. In war, you're rolling over and you're taking it. You're letting them.
Yo, man, it's been I would, first of all, before we get out of here, man, I
Yeah.
would love to have you as a guest on my
No, I
podcast too, bro.
appreciate you.
'Cause it's too good,
It's
bro.
not
Don't
even a
don't be
question.
selfish with me, where I just come on yours. You gotta come on mine too, bro.
That ain't even a thing. I ain't got it's not even a question. That's not even a
Bro, I
question.
want my audience to hear you too, man. Because
I
like,
appreciate you,
bro,
bro.
it is a breath of fresh air listening to
Thank you,
you,
bro.
man.
Thank you. Likewise.
More, hopefully, you and I can inspire more guys to go out there and all, because it's gonna take. We're shorthanded, bro.
I know. Yeah. But
You know,
again, all it takes is a few to rile them up, and that's all it is. That's all it is. Willing
yeah,
to die behind it. That's all it is.
they're ready to.
Yeah. Then
So
they'll do it to themselves. Like,
yeah,
with these damn nut jobs. What? But I appreciate you, Nima.
yeah,
Much
man.
love. So where can folks reach you? What platforms and things of that nature? And then
Yeah, I would encourage everyone to find me on X.
mhm,
To me, that's the most secure one. I mean, 1 minute you're on Instagram, 1 minute you're on one of these apps, and then the next minute you're completely gone. So I
yeah.
would encourage anyone, if you want to speak up like we do, um, either build an email list. This is something I want everyone to know. Build an email list, get a
Mhm,
Telegram, build on X. If Larry Ellison and Michael Dell wind
yeah.
up buying
I was
TikTok, you could
just
build.
about to say that the deal just went through.
That's amazing, bro.
I know.
But
That's God right there at work.
you know, if it's in those hands, then I'd say build there. But
Yeah.
be very careful building on like Instagram,
Yeah.
Facebook, YouTube, because the bottom line is they can take it from you. You have it
Yeah.
1 minute, the next minute it's all gone. So
Facts.
build on apps that you think are secure, and then also build on Instagram, build on Facebook, build on YouTube. But just know that at any point, especially during the election year, I would say
Yeah.
November 2027. Just get ready that November 2027, this thing can all go from us.
Yeah.
And if the AOC is president, you never know, man. You never know who they're going to go after. If AOC wins, I think you're going to see maybe potentially influencers get arrested.
Without a doubt.
So
Without a
for
doubt.
what we're saying now,
Yeah.
in 2030, maybe they view it as we broke the law. So you never know. I mean, they're unhinged on steroids.
Yeah.
So if Ilhan Omar is the head of the NSA, if Rashida Tlaib is the CIA director, I mean, why not? How
That's
can we
yeah.
stop them? If
That's an
not,
underestimation of where it could go, to be
if
honest.
if
E
Mamdani is Secretary of State and AOC is the president, if AOC is president, if people think she's not going to bring that sort of extremist bent into the White House, into the cabinet, they're out of their mind. And we're only about 2 years away, 3 years away from that.
Yeah,
So we're actually very close to that. We're much closer to that than people think. And
yeah,
that's and then, by the way, we're also dealing with the Chinese Communist Party in Qatar, who's expanding. Let's say they got 5 billion bot accounts, now 1 billion bot accounts. What sort of world are we in 5 years? Our runway is getting smaller and smaller and smaller. There is also a point where what we do is not only not as effective, it's we're just going to get, you're going to see guys disappear. Mass purge, like 100 of your favorite influencers all gone. And then they're going to come after you or you're going to submit to them completely. Like that's literally how this is world wars happen.
yeah,
We're very fortunate. I explained to my wife. My wife is my last point here. My wife is about 12, 11 years younger than me. She's in her
yeah,
30s. And I explained to her, I said, this world is not always peaceful. No, there's world wars. It happened to be that your life has never seen a
yeah,
world war.
it's
But
true. I
like,
mean,
no,
there's real life. It's like Christian. I say, like, Christians in the West, you get your little mocha chocolate latte and your little avocado toast. Go to Nigeria and see how it's going over there. If to be a Christian, the same thing, and you know what I mean. So you're right. The privilege is unfathomable.
yeah. And the thing is that, like, yeah, we can keep triggering our allies like Israel. We can say, okay, let's stop giving money to Israel. Okay, fine. Let's stop giving all support to Israel. Fine. Israel won't disappear. Israel
Yeah,
has a few things that other countries want. For example, tech. For example, cyber security. For example, a weapons manufacturer. There's other countries. Germany, when Germany buys tech from Israel because they want to keep their own country safe, right?
yeah.
When the UAE speaks up for Israel, it's not just because they're these nice guys. No, it's the fact that they heavily rely on the cybersecurity and the AI and the technology that protects Emiratis
Facts.
also from Iran, which they view as a much bigger threat. They're not stupid like
Mhm.
we are
Yeah,
here, and some of our woke liberals and woke right are here. All right, like they don't trust Qatar. That's why
yeah.
Al Jazeera is banned in their country. They're actually smart, very smart. UAE to me is they are doing so many things correctly, and the irony is that they're actually a Muslim country.
It's because they're closest to the threat. They know, you know what I mean?
Yeah, bro.
Well, you know
Yeah.
what your enemy looks like from next door. Yeah, you don't need
No,
anybody else to tell you anything about them.
no,
We're
man. It was a pleasure, bro. It's been a
It's
pleasure,
been a
man. Thank
pleasure.
you for having me,
Likewise.
bro.
It's been a
Sincerely,
blessing.
bro.
I
Sincerely, bro.
appreciate you. Much love to you and your family,
Sincerely,
brother.
bro. Thank you, bro.
It's all good. Peace. Appreciate you guys for tuning in. Now, if you'd like to stay around, make sure to click that little subscribe button down there, or you can show some love by going to the description below and clicking on the button titled Buy Me a Coffee. Leave a little something there, or click on the Cash App. Leave a little something here. Till the next time, peace. I've been up for hours, I've been up for days, you. Staring at the ceiling, I've been counting strays, you. I've been in my feelings, I've been out of mind. I've been getting visions of the other kind. Yeah, I've been up for weeks. I'm in the counting blessings over counting sheep. I can never be the type to limit when it comes to me. I used to be the pleaser for the people, I ain't